This is Green Apple. We are back with the Antenna album and our track by track listen through, which brings us to. Wait, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Non. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, I have no idea what the title of this song means. I know that they've had a couple of unusual song names that I had to look up before, things like Kimosabi, and then I found out what that meant. And then there's been songs like Unloveless, where you're thinking, that's an interesting title, what could you mean by that? It's like a double negative. They like to be creative with their titles, but I'm going to be honest with you, a Google search for Norn does not really give me much. But this is in that interesting point in the album that I've been excited about throughout this entire track by track listen through, that we've got to now where these are all songs with no videos. And that for me is exciting, because as much as I do love music videos, in fact, I would kind of prefer every song to have a music video in a way, that whole thing that's indicated by not having a music video, that whole thing of, this is a song that we don't feel necessarily is for radio play, but it was worth recording, basically means this could be where the experimentation lies. And having listened to quite a lot of Mrs. Green Apple at this point, I'm always looking forward to anything that gives a little bit more colour and variation, because this is a band who we have no doubt about the abilities of when it comes to creating big hits and, obviously effective singles. So those areas of experimentation that take them away from what we already know they can do are always fantastic. Although, I can't deny them doing stuff that's in their core sound is going to be great anyway, because that's what got them famous. But anyway, enough waffle, let's jump in. This is Norn by Mrs. Green Apple. Let's go. They love just having amazing sound choices, don't they? His lyrics sound very different This is in a different language. What is going on? Oh, I love the backing vocals there as well. I'm also loving the way that the violins playing off against like the banjo sound. What language is he singing in? I'm intrigued. What is going on here? I'm gonna have to look this up when this is finished. Again, they are so good at this stereo balance thing. Loving using the brushes on the snare as well, giving it a really nice sort of feel. Cello bass. This is just such a beautiful cornucopia of sounds here. That very quick melody and chord pattern. That's a lovely little, the way the melody and the chord pattern harmonise against each other through that phase is brilliant. This is genuine. I have so many questions. I'm gonna have to do a lot of checking after this song. We're gonna check this together. Oh. That's a beautiful Friday in the piano at the end. Do you know, I've said so many times that Mrs. Green Apple are like, let's just see if anything happens in that last 5 seconds. I'm assuming that's fade out. Yeah, I'm going to stop it before the next song plays. We've said this so many times that Mrs. Green Apple are like masters of sound. Now, I'm just going to quickly take this. I'm going to start searching, by the way, while I'm talking. This song is not only so masterful soundscape-wise, but I really am quite taken by just... okay, so the sounds it's using, it's not like there's anything experimental going on here. What is going on, though, is it's playing with a lot of those traditional sounds in such a fantastic way. In that it's got the... there's a lot of traditional folk sounds, but so many of them layered. Yeah, again, I've said this so many times. Mrs. Green Apple songs, you'll either have a piano or a keyboard on one side, guitar on the other, or sometimes guitar on both sides. But you just got this thing where the mid-range sound, whatever it is, the body sound of the song, is always something on the left and something on the right, which are different. And so much of what makes Mrs. Green Apple's songs so great is the fact that you have that balance between the instruments in the middle of the song. So yeah, everyone's focused on the melody and the vocals, and yeah, he's got a great voice and the lyrics and everything, but the songs sound so thick because of what's happening in the middle. And this just, you had I think you've got like a bit of acoustic in there, a bit of banjo in there, you've got a violin playing, and then when the bass comes in, the bass is like a cello, so you've got a gorgeous, I love the sound of a good sort of cello sound. I'm assuming that was a cello. It could be like a contrabass or something. I'm not super familiar with all the different types of bass string instrument, but I'm assuming it's a cello. I just love those deep, beautiful, resonant sounds you get from a string instrument when it's really low. Similar to what I said about when you get the really lovely low notes on a really well-made piano as well. Gorgeous sound you get from that. So there, that was really nice hearing the bass conveyed in that way. And then the actual kick from the drums, it sounded... because you could hear the brushes on the snare, but the kick almost sounded like the sort of the thump of a cajon, which, if you don't know, is that sort of box instrument. Sometimes you'll see drummers play on when they're playing acoustic sets rather than using a drum kit. They'll be sitting on like a box, and you can hear them see them snapping it with their hand, and that's kind of that you get that sort of thudding sound, but very nice, but very sort of deep, soft thudding sound from cajon. The kick sounded more like that, so I don't know if this was just a really padded out kick drum or what it was, but the drums were lovely here. You know, the snare was this crisp sort of brush sound, and then the kick was very sort of like, had a nice thump, but was quite sort of soft, so that you could still hear the cello coming through. Yeah, this was gorgeous sonically. But what was the language? Let's find out. What language is Mrs. Green Apple's non... and why? That's the question that I'm going to be asking to, I hate to say it, an AI assistant. I'm about to find out now. So while it's loading the answer, I've still got it set to check in expert mode. So it's going to be taking its time, checking very carefully. I will say that this is an example of a song that it kind of does something that Mrs. Green Apple often do very well, which is that they are very good at doing songs where, just if you look at the chord and melody, they're beautiful, but they're almost traditional, and this is one of the reasons why their music is so accessible. But it's very how to say, it's very much that they take these traditional sounding melodies and add so much detail into them through beautiful sound crafting, through the arrangements, having things, whether it be strings, all the various things that are happening. And that's what I really like. They don't have to stray too far away from doing nice traditional melodies. The funny thing is that chorus, the chords and the melody are both moving at the same time, but it's the fact that they're not moving in lockstep. They're kind of moving away from each other. It means that every single note, every single one is a different harmony, and you're just getting this row of harmonies one after the other, and that makes that first little block of the chorus so incredibly engaging, because each note comes with its own chord. Each note of the melody comes with its own chord, meaning that the separation between what the voice is singing and what the chord of the instrumentation is different each time. So it's like this evolving, developing harmony between the instruments and the vocals. And again, this is something which is a nice traditional thing you hear in traditional folk music, but they use it so well here. Anyway, let's bring this up on screen. All right, what we got here? The song Norm by Japanese band Mrs. Green Apple, sung entirely in Swedish. That's so mad. The choice was made to better capture the song's Nordic and Celtic inspired folk atmosphere. Fair enough. Nordic, Swedish, yeah. I think so. Go for Norwegian. No. Which incorporates traditional Swedish instruments. Oh, okay, like the... Oh, I have no idea how to pronounce that. Nyckelharpa. I'm going to say Nyckelharpa. Okay, so what I was probably thinking of as being a banjo is probably that one. Because I was about to say, it didn't sound 100% like there was a... It sounded a little bit like a banjo, but it wasn't distinctively a banjo enough for me to say. So I'm going to guess a Nyckelharpa is the stringed instrument. We'll check that in a minute. The band's frontman, Matoki Omori, learned Swedish pronunciation specifically for the track. What a freaking OG. The guidance from... with guidance from a mentor, as an original demo style felt mismatched with either English or Japanese. That is freaking wild. All right, let's have a little look and see if we can find a picture of this instrument. Going through... Sorry, because I'm doing a Google image search, I have to be a little bit careful. The internet is the internet. All right, that is mad. Look at that. Do you know what this actually reminds me of? There's a Japanese instrument called a taisho koto. Oh, it is a bowed instrument. No way. That's the one that sounded like the violin? No freaking way. That is crazy. I love it. But it's very flat. Because, I mean, the thing with... maybe this will show us better. The bridge. It's a little bit bowed. But the thing about stringed instruments, you look at a violin, the middle strings are higher because as you bow, if the middle strings weren't higher, you'd never be able to touch the middle strings. This looks like it's got a very flat bridge arrangement. Oh, maybe not. You see the little points back there. Fascinating. I love it. We're learning stuff with Mrs. Green Apple right now. So the instrument that I thought that kind of reminds me of when I see it, let me just open it up. So this is the instrument I'm about to reference. I believe it's a Japanese instrument just by the name and by the fact that I bought a couple whilst I was in. Whilst living in Japan. Let's see if I can get a picture of this on screen. Sorry, mate, it's a bit slow today. Okay, so I was thinking very much of this instrument, which is called a taisho koto, which is it looks like a typewriter, but it's got strings underneath it. So you kind of play the strings, but then you can kind of press the notes you want, like pressing frets on a guitar, but with like these typewriter keys. Usually you can see they're in like sort of 2 rows like this. I've had a couple of these in the past, and you can actually buy them very cheap in second-hand shops in Japan, and they've got this gorgeous sound. They actually sound much more like a hammer dulcimer than anything. And don't worry, I'm not going to now take us to a dulcimer next, just go down all these string instruments. But that's kind of what this thing looks like to me. But this is something more. So these are more like pegs. I still feel like it looks like it looks like from this instrument. So you press down to get the note and then bow it. That is wild. Anyway, we're talking more about the instrument than anything. But I love this because, dude, I love the dude went and just learned he didn't learn Swedish, but he just learned how to do the pronunciation in Swedish. That is so cool. And for an album track that has no video or anything, dude, that is wild. I love that. I will say it reminds me a little bit of... I've often mentioned how I'm a big fan of like Oatskry's music, and Oatskry back, I think it was in her 2008, I think it was, she did the album Love Letter, and she wanted to do a song in a jazz style, so she spent loads of time communicating with jazz musicians and sort of working really hard to do this and like learning instruments she hadn't played before just so she could do a song in a jazz style. And she learnt violin as well at one point just to do a particular song. And so, I love musicians who they have this thing they want to do. So they become like laser focused on, okay, I'm going to get this right, but I'm going to understand it when I do it. And that's wild. I love the fact that he's had a mentor help him with Swedish. I mean, that is not a language that you hear in a lot of places. I mean, ironically, you go to Sweden and unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, but unfortunately for the Swedish language, most people in Sweden do seem to speak English. But I absolutely love the attention to detail here. This was awesome. And you know what? The folk aspect as well. I mean, Mrs. Green Apple always seemed to be somewhere between pop, rock, and there's always a folk aspect to what they do. I always feel that. You hear a lot of folk music stylings coming into their music. And so this feels natural, but it does also feel like it takes that in a different direction. So this certainly feels like it's a standout in its own way. But what an awesome song. So there we go. Norn by. Do you know what? Actually, that's the last. Let's do that last. Let's open up. I'm going to get Google Translate. I'm going to find out what Norn means in Swedish. Google Translate is so used to working with me in so many languages, and now I'm like, show me Swedish. So let's see if we can find out. All right, I've got to. Let's do this together. Let's see. What does Norn mean? There you go. Well, I feel like we learned a lot today. And I want to. What does it mean in Icelandic? All right. I don't think that's what they were going for. But thank you everyone for tuning in. You have yourselves a wonderful time. Get in the comments. Tell me what you think, and until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these. For now. Ciao, ciao.